Formal motion?
Move Resolution 1546 approving the low bid of $21,931.88 received from Interconnects of Johnston, Iowa for the door entry replacement system for the fire station.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Council discussion? Dan McKenzie, are you happy with this?
Sure.
Other public input before we vote?
I like that it's coming in under budget for it, so that's nice.
Yeah, this was, we're used to coming just over budget lately.
It's nice.
Roll call vote, please.
Resnicek.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampe.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resolution 15-46 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 2 is a resolve to approve a service agreement with VJ Engineering for $30,000 to create a feasibility report on our Green Bridge options. City Administrator, you want to weigh in early or you want to wait for the discussion?
Whenever you would like.
I think maybe early, just so we can get your reflections and you're on
Okay.
top of this.
As I think everyone in town is aware, the Green Bridge, or 3rd Street Southeast Bridge, was closed to pedestrian and vehicle traffic on February 13th following an biennial inspection from WHKS Bridge Engineers. And at the time, we were surprised at the closing. We knew that it was nearing the end of its useful life, but we actually had talked in December at the council budget workshops about the fund and what to do with the fund, and had actually, staff had put on their list the Green Bridge future as a study session item to kick off this summer for the process. When it closed, we needed to figure out what do we do next, and there has been a lot of discussion around solutions. But before we can come to solutions, we need to answer some questions, and the first major question is, can it be repaired? If so, at what cost and for how long? And so much of this I've outlined in my memo, but before tonight I didn't have the actual engineering services proposal, and so that's here, and we printed off plenty of copies too for the public. And I have asked VJ Engineering, specifically Tim McDermott from VJ Engineering in Coralville, to put together this proposal. And the reason I did that is I had gone out to research other similar truss bridges that were restored or rebuilt in eastern Iowa, and found that Mr. McDermott had worked both on the Sutliff Bridge, which is a 3-span pin truss bridge in Johnson County that was taken down in part after the 2008 flood, and also designed a new replacement truss bridge in Clayton County for the Motor Mill Bridge, if folks are familiar with that outside Elkader. Seeing that he had had recent eastern Iowa experience on truss bridges, I reached out to him and shared with him the inspection reports from WHKS and the measured drawings from 1915 that we had on file, and he put this proposal together for us. In short, it's a 2-part study. The first is to look at the reports and then look physically, visit the bridge and take stock of its condition. The second is then to take all those measurements and findings and run them through their engineering software to understand the load and the fracture analysis and all of that to really understand its condition and put it through the stress test. Then they work to find a engineering plan that could repair the bridge, if that's possible, to either a full open for cars and cars and pedestrians, or simply just a pedestrian bridge. Their timeline is 120 days or less, and their budget for this number is $27,980. And so I think from staff's point of view, this is the first step to understand what is possible with the current bridge structure. This does not answer what should be done or all the options that could be done, but it does move us forward to better understand what we're looking at right now with the current structure.
Thank you. Let's do a motion and do our discussion after motion. We'll have public input at the end of the council discussion. Motion, please.
I'll move Resolution 1547, approving a professional service agreement with VJ Engineering for time and material costs not to exceed $30,000 without additional council approval.
I'll second it.
Motion second, council discussion.
So in the first phase where they will review existing bridge records, that will include, I'm assuming even though it was a long time ago, or maybe you already said this, Phil, I'm sorry if I missed it, that would include all the work that was done like 13 years ago or whenever that was, when we had a pretty extensive report on that.
So it'll include 2006 repairs, which is this document here, also copies for you. We have actually, I believe, I don't know if I brought it with me, a 1976 analysis from engineers out of Waterloo, 1983 repairs that were done to it, I think 1970 analysis that includes measured drawings. So everything we have historically will be part of the analysis.
So the 2006 is the most recent one, is that correct? So it's 9 years ago?
Yes, and what that was primarily sidewalk and fencing or railing repairs. There were no structural repairs to the gusset plates or stringers or superstructure at that time.
But was that the same time when there was a group, a task force that studied this and maybe used some engineering expertise too? I don't remember the details, where it then came to council with a certain recommendation that was voted down by council. Is that the 2006?
That was 2003.
Okay.
And we do have a resident, actually two resident experts tonight, plus probably more, that can explain that process. And that was a review and recommending body that through 6 meetings looked at different options, looked at current conditions, looked at past work to try to come up with a recommendation for the council at that point on to repair or replace the bridge.
And so
And that report will go to them as well.
this will go, okay.
Yep. Basically, all that we have will go to them on the subject, which, as we keep digging, we find a lot.
I think it's important to note that, at this point, our main emphasis needs to be on analyzing what we have on the bridge that's good and then moving forward to a solution. I know there's been a lot of comments, why aren't we doing anything? Why aren't we moving forward with anything? Is because, it's a long process. We have a engineering firm that has come out and said that this bridge is no good. If we can't drive on it, we can't walk on it. And right now, this would be a perfect first step to create some analysis and some direction on where we want to go with the bridge and make an intelligent decision down the road on what the fate of the bridge is. Now, I live right next to the bridge. I wake up every morning, I look out the window, and I see the bridge. What we need to do here moving forward is to ensure that it's safe, and if possible, it seems to be the sentiment that they want to, people want to save the Green Bridge, but does it make financial sense to do so? And this is a first step of that journey, I think, and this would be a good, the information that we get from this survey will probably provide a lot of unanswered questions.
I have a question about Phase 2. If they decide that, the Green Bridge would probably, at its current state, might be better for like pedestrian, even if we repair it, would they also come up with a proposal of where they would put a second bridge would be feasible so that we do connect that area to other parts of town? Because, as far as schools and everything go, I know that's currently a discussion that a lot of parents are having trouble getting to their kids' school, southeast, and other things like that. I'm just wondering if that would also be part of Phase 2.
In this study, no.
Okay.
This study only looks at the current bridge in its current location and state. That would be more of a review option once we know what is feasible for this bridge. On that note, I know there have been some questions on, we used to walk across the bridge, what do we do now? I did confirm with the school district today, there's a school bus stop just south of First National Bank, and that's a priority stop, especially for elementary students who can get on there and then ride to Southeast or their other schools, and then space available for middle school and high school. So there are some options there. It's not as ideal as walking 2 blocks, but they are aware of the issue. But that's something, and I know the 2003 task force looked at over 18 or 19 options, including locations, alignments, and I think that would come as a next step once we know more about what's possible here.
And would also have to be discussed and considered, I think, in tandem with the 10th Avenue project. Yeah.
I guess one question I have is, if there's a way to maybe get their impression, their technical approval to open it back up to at least pedestrian during this time. It seems like a huge step to go through. Cars are driving over at 1 minute and people are walking across it to it's going to fall down and we can't drive or walk on it. And talking to a few people, I think in that area, if they could at least use it as a pedestrian bridge, it would alleviate some of the concern with the delay and not maybe having a plan on the shelf that we can pull off and enact, that type of thing. So I don't know if there's a way just to speed that process up a little bit.
And one thing, I'll ask him that when I talk with him tomorrow. I know in one of our conversations, he was kind of remarking about the low load rating right now. And I don't know how all the math works, but he said that for pedestrian ratings, it's bridges are rated to 85 pounds per square foot, which generally equates to a 5-ton load rating, which is what it was rated at. But I'll ask him to see if there's a timeline there that we can work in between.
Yeah, it's not as easy as,
Again, I know we want to stay well within safety parameters, those
Mhm.
type of things, but if there's any way to get it opened up to pedestrian while we're trying to decide future direction, that type of thing, I think that would help.
well, first I guess I want to congratulate Megan for, I mean, wherever this goes, it takes a lot of courage to do what you did. And the efforts you did in creating the Facebook site, I haven't seen all that and all the efforts. I mean, that's, talk about a leader, that's excellent. I commend you for that. So, but one of the most common questions I've had is and I got copies of all the minutes that I could get going back, people have asked me, so now we find that we've had reports from WHKS in 2013 and 2011 and 2009, 2008, but I couldn't find anywhere in the minutes that was actually, and in each one of those, you can actually scramble them, they all look about the same, which is the second part of my concern. But the question I'm getting is, why wasn't this addressed, or it doesn't, I don't find that it was brought before council as saying, hey, we've got, this is the issue, we need to do something. And then back in 2003, the result was, so they did this study, the group actually, as I look at the results, the group was almost a 50-50 split between replacing it or repairing it. But then they came back after some discussion. I don't know how long that discussion occurred. It sounded like it was in the same meeting, perhaps. Then it was like a 60-40 split. I don't know if that was 4 people or 10 people or... So I think there's just a lot of emotion around it, and I think maybe that's why council decided at that time to commit to, repairing it. But going forward, I guess, why wasn't... It seems like, I'm not sure if it had been repaired over time. And that's just the questions I've gotten, and, maybe if there was something done differently, or maybe I'm missing something, maybe just some explanation for public would help.
Sure. I'll invite Hank to come up to talk about 2003, and while he comes, I know that this afternoon I had the Minute Ferry place some minutes on my desk from 2005 and 2006 when at that time, it was recommended that the council approve a professional services agreement to replace gusset plates, 12 gusset plates, and it was decided at that time that they weren't going to do that because those were needed repairs, but it was voted 1-6 to not move forward with that. Since I've been here, while I know we haven't presented the reports, we have talked about them annually in budget process about what should we do and how do we move forward, maintenance programs. And while to my knowledge, there hasn't been major maintenance programs. There is kind of an annual power washing of the bridge to get salt off, minor repair of the transition plates and things like that. So I think over time, at least I've seen in the 2005, 6, 7 period, that various councils have struggled with exactly what to do, knowing that the repairs are no small matter, and there was never enough money in any account to really do significant repairs at any one time. Maybe, Hank, you can talk about what led up to 2003, the history, and then the outcome there too, as you were the facilitator.
Give you a little bit on the process. The mayor got together with the council, and each council member named 2 people to a task force that was to take a look at the Green Bridge question. So we had 14 people who came together. Their track record was that in the 6 meetings we had a total of 3 absences. We met from 11 o'clock till 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, as I recall, and everybody was there. We started on time, we finished on time, and they did their work. About half of these people either had their primary residence or their business interest in Southeast Waverly. And we talked about how do you take a look objectively at data and come up with a solution that is likely to have the best interest of the community at heart, and set aside your personal best interest. We went on for many, many, many months. Mike brought together people. WHKS was one of the engineering firms we worked with. Stanley Engineering was another. We had people from IDOT. It was well-resourced. None of them volunteered their services. The city invested a good bit of money in order to have that data collected. At the end of the day, we took a vote at the last meeting. And the vote was to use the existing bridge as a pedestrian trail type bridge. Not for motor vehicles, but for walking and bicycling. Change the nature of the deck, lighten it so that we might extend its life. Today we're talking about a 98-year-old bridge. Now, if we were talking about a 98-year-old man who had some of the same degree of need for assistance, for surgical repair, for those things, we might look at it a little differently than we look at it when we're talking about a bridge. This bridge, however, is loved by a lot of people. Aesthetically, it's very pleasing. It's hard to think of that area of town not having the green bridge there. What we came up with was a solution that could keep the green bridge there and build a second bridge. We had identified 8 possible routings to bring that bridge into congruency with the street pattern of the city. When we made our report, and it's all on file, and I do suggest that you go to the record because memories are kind of interesting. Go to the record. The recommendation that was made was to build a new bridge. And we had a site that was picked for it, and to do the necessary repair on the green bridge to allow it to function effectively as a pedestrian trail bridge. By lightening the weight of the deck, getting rid of the sidewalk, putting a different type of material for decking on there, we would extend the possible life for that structure. We made the report. At that same meeting, some citizens decided that they would like to have the opportunity to make a counter report. The report was not voted on. And I think it was about 8 weeks later that committee or that group of citizens came back with a recommendation to maintain the status quo. And council did vote on that. Questions?
I guess I'm looking at page 18 of the Green Bridge Task Force Executive Summary Report. And the final recommendation is the Green Bridge Task Force recommends the City of Waverly that the existing 3rd Street Southeast Bridge be replaced with a new 2-lane bridge at the same location. So earlier it was discussed of one of the options, you had a matrix that moving it, that was one of the options, but that was eventually voted in favor of this. So you had go back a couple pages, one, the earlier part of the meeting was A, replace, B, repair, C, relocate. It was narrowed down to A, replace, B, repair. And the final recommendation was to replace it in the same location. I guess that's just where I was coming from.
I don't know. For me, it's recall.
I know that since I've been here and the past reports I've read, it's been on strategic planning and goal setting of we need to look into it, let's start a process. Everybody knows that it's way past its useful design life, I think its design life is
70
70 years. So we're almost 30 years beyond that. And so the difference now is when those discussions occurred, it was still open and functioning, and now it's closed. And so now we're forced into finding what's next, which, that's just where we are tonight, is what's next is, from our recommendation, is having a different engineering company come look at it and provide you a feasibility report.
I mean, I guess my ultimate current concern is I don't think it should have been closed. I voiced that in some emails that we had a lot of warning from WHKS a lot of years in the past, and my concern is why things weren't done. I guess, so today I sent an email to a fellow council person and said, read this report. They talk about due to the development of previous fatigue cracks, they drilled some holes, they had some fatigue at some beams, they had some rusty bearings, and the council person said, that bridge is in tough shape. And I guess I responded back, the report wasn't from the Green Bridge, it was from another bridge in town. So my concern is, what's the condition of the other bridges in town? Or we can just start closing more bridges. Obviously, this bridge isn't that bad a shape, but that's my concern from a bigger picture, is we've got some responsibility to keep these bridges open. I guess I don't agree with the fact that it's old and it's, we just need to, close it, tear it down. With maintenance, I got to think that we wouldn't be in this position. So we are, so can't turn back time. Just trying to figure out what we can do in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again.
The personal opinion is that going ahead with the study is a good idea, because then you'll have hard data not only of the structure of the bridge, but the condition of the support members that keep it in place.
I guess I would ask, since we've had such significant citizen support, we want to make sure that this engineering study is not slanted to tear the bridge down, but slanted towards how to repair it. And we can do that. So I guess, I don't know how we communicate that. I guess I would have, before we voted on it, I would have probably asked to make sure that we can say our requirement for them, if they're building a highway, if they're building a bridge, if they're building a sidewalk, the customer requirement here is that we learn how we can repair the bridge.
Under the project goals on page 3, you'll note that it says BJ Engineering has a solid understanding of the current status as well as its history and services requested. The main goal of this project is to determine the extent of the rehab and repairs necessary to put the bridge back into service, either for vehicle or pedestrian use, and to provide the city with a cost estimate for the repairs for the purpose of applying for project funding. So that is the intended goal, is what would it take to open it back up?
I think, though, that when we communicate with them, City Administrator, that we still can do what David said. I think the overwhelming sentiment is that if we can possibly, because it's beyond, and I think also, I know, Hank, what you're saying in terms of length of time, but again, just having watched the European bridges where people come for, as major tourists, we have 13 bridges from the year 1300. We have, the new bridges are only 100 years old. I don't know if age by itself is just more the condition, but you want to comment on that?
Well, I appreciate the comment. This bridge was designed to function effectively for 70 years. It wasn't designed to be there forever. What I would hope the study tells you is it gives you hard data so that the emotion, and you feel it in the room tonight. This young woman has made an appeal. It needs to be satisfied with data that people can trust, so that if it's to go ahead, you know that's something that's possible. But if it's to say this can't happen, that you'll know why.
Right.
I guess
That's
that's
just
the
how we communicate it.
caution I'd like to offer is, not speaking for everybody, but I think there's a desire to keep the aesthetic appeal of that bridge there and make it functional, but I'm assuming at some point, even a major rehab would force us into complying with current standards as far as the design of the height for flood mitigation, those type of things. So even if we try to do a save the bridge in the aesthetic appeal, we may be forced into complying with regulations that don't allow that to the extent we would like. So I think we need to be careful in the perception we leave with people that it will look exactly the way it does today, even if we repair it. And
I think in Alcator, I went to look at that, it's a wonderful bridge, but I think it's a little bit elevated over its original. It's still the original quote-unquote, but it's rebuilt, but they did alter the height.
Right.
And Dan's saying that this could easily happen with us, too.
Get his
We
Hank-
don't want to give the impression
yeah.
that there's a real simple.
As Hank indicates, memory is probably not the best thing to fall back on, but my understanding from some of the discussion around 2003 was if it's replaced, it does have to be raised several feet, which means the approaches have to be built. And I think at that time, before the flood buyouts, there was 4 to 6 properties that would have to be acquired. And we struggled as a council to take some farm ground to make our airports safer. I can only imagine what a council did back in 2003 if they were faced with taking 4 properties, 4 homes to replace a bridge.
Before we talk, I just want to stay right there, but I want to finish with the council.
I would just like to see, I guess not crazy about anything that has the word slant in it. I guess what I would like to see is an expert, professional evaluation as objective as possible with different scenarios of what a solution could be. Not slanted one way or the other, but as objective as possible, but give us some choices. If you do this, here's what's going to happen. If you do this, here's what's going to happen and what it's going to cost. So that is what I would hope we would get out of, and not tell them to slant it one way or the other. I want at least, I'll speak for myself, because I think that's the best way to make a decision for everyone. Is what is the objective situation and what is that going to cost and what kind of alternatives do we have?
That was the aim of your comments anyway, I think, David, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was, she said it perfect.
Well said.
And I think this study is going to give you that objectiveness, but, you also have to listen to the community, and the
Sure.
community wants to know, is it possible to save it without
Sure.
costing,
Yep.
taxpayers?
Need to know what it costs, and
Yeah.
that's the big thing. And for 30,000, I think, we haven't set a lot of money aside and setting $20,000 a year into a bridge repair project fund. 30,000 is taking about a fifth out of it, what we set aside to this point. So it's a chunk out. So getting that idea of what is it going to take to get it reopened. I like Dan's idea of finding out how quickly if we can get it open for pedestrian traffic at least, if that's acceptable, would open that up as far as that a little bit. Vehicle obviously is a little trickier subject as far as that. I know I'm the longest sitting one on the council, but it's come to us a few times, and most of the time it was always, the impression was we were going to have a little warning, a little bit of uptime to be ready to make a decision on things, and so we've been setting money aside and kind of waiting to when to push the go on the feasibility part, and now we're kind of broadsided with a lot quicker decision-making on that, and unfortunately, that leaves us with a longer probably time frame before we can necessarily get it open completely again. But I've heard the community and very much am one that wants to get that bridge restored and maintained to where it is usable by the community, at least in a pedestrian fashion. I understand that there may be issues coming with vehicle as far as with modern standards and what we might have to run into as far as that, but certainly for that purposes. But it's also one of the reasons why we moved forward with the 10th Avenue project, was to get to that level. And then in addition, looking at the Bremer Avenue Bridge, looking at the Horton Bridge, make sure that those bridges in town are acceptable as well. But for this one, we need to get it going as quickly as we can and get back. And so I guess my issue, yes, want to know both cost of restoring it and possible other costs, other options there, but also my issue would be to get the study and get it done as quickly as possible, get that process going as quickly. That would be my emphasis with this.
Well, I think we need to make sure that the public knows that we're not sitting on our hands with this, that we are actually doing something. And, I get the impression that people think we're not doing anything about this. Well, you have to first analyze what we have to work with, and I think this is a good step forward with that.
Any more comments? Chris, you want to weigh in?
One,
Pete? We're going to do public comments now, and Pete's ready.
Pete Lampe, and I served on that committee in 2003 looking at the bridge. And you're right, Dave, that's what we came back with. One of those, I've got too many file boxes at home. I went back after the bridge was closed and found my notes and paperwork from those meetings. It's a matter of, that was a painstaking decision for me to vote to go with a new bridge because of the fact of changing the character. I'm one that, the mayor's one that, I grew up with the Harmon Street Bridge. That was my way to get around town. It's a matter of, there was a lot of emotional discussion on the aesthetics of it, everything else, but there's also, you got to get to the point of the practicality of it. I think this would be a very good way to get to the practicality of what the options are going to be. Mike can correct me, but when we were doing the discussions, or Hank, if you remember, we were basing some decisions on estimates that WHKS was providing for us from their inspection reports, estimating what was going to be involved with repairs on the bridge. And those costs were adding up pretty quick. I think this will give us an analysis that gives us actual analysis as to whether it can be fixed and what it's going to involve to fix it. And I think that's definitely the way to go right at this point. And I'd appreciate you going along with it and going for it right now. So.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for your hard work on the bridge.
Mayor, if I could, just one more clarifying question, comment. We've heard reference to the Bremer Avenue Bridge as well as the one by Waverly Light and Power. Are those, I'm assuming Bremer Avenue Bridge is a state bridge?
Correct.
So they're the ones that inspect it, they're the ones that decide repair, maintenance, those type of things. The one by Waverly Light and Power, who has jurisdiction over that one?
That's a city bridge, the Adams Parkway Bridge. Yeah.
Wonderful question.
Just a quick, I'm reading through the minutes back in 2006, and I'm not finding where, there's one, maybe we would take this offline, but, October, it was 7 yes, 0 no for some repairs that Butch K had recommended. So I guess I was surprised. There was a, I guess I'm not finding where it was.
September 12th, 2005, regular item number 3, professional services agreement for the 3rd Street Southeast Bridge repair. In synopsis, what it was a project involves replacement of the gusset plates at one of the 12 bearing locations. Repair was initiated, discussed, and approved by the council during budgetary sessions. This repair involves the same regime for 1 as it does for 12, including closing down the bridge.
What was the date?
September 12th, 2005.
Yeah, so they never went back. Yeah, I guess here, I went back a page, so Mayor Ackerman informed members of the audience that the city will prepare a Green Bridge repair program for its next budget.
Right.
So they never went back to that?
So then March 27th, 2006 is where that picks up again on item number 2. Sorry, I thought somebody was standing there. With the history, and then that's where we get into basically the repair for the sidewalk railing and expansion plates. Those expansion plates are what thump every time you drive over them that we put the gaskets in.
But the October 2nd, 2006 is what I was talking about. So that was after 2005. They're talking about replacing some abutment plates, some beams. But obviously, they would have replaced the damage or the parts that they found in 2005.
No, they never did, because gusset plates were estimated to repair, cost of repair was between $10,000 and $50,000 a piece, because that's where all the structure members tie together and bolt up. And because of the range, and Mike can go into it further, I don't believe those repairs were ever initiated, were they?
No, the council deferred that as a major repair, and they wanted to continue as is, you know.
But it was never brought up, it's never stated in the minutes that it was, again? So I guess from 2006, which is, 9 years ago, we were doing repairs that didn't include that important part. We were never advised, or council was never advised to make those repairs. I guess I'm just confused why that would have been. Then after that, it's just talking about normal, it was just the budget for their services to inspect every year, but we went 5 years of those inspections. I'm just confused why it never came up again. But
Any other questions from the council on this? It's good to take a back look, though, before we do the front look. And I think, this was important discussion. Obviously, we're agreeing to move forward here, though.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Reading through this on the rehabilitation feasibility, I think it's important to note that, this is for a 20-year design life of the repairs. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
On this? I mean, we're not going to fix a bridge that lasts another 100 years. We're going to make it last another 20 years, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you do reduce it to a pedestrian bridge, you're not introducing salt from vehicles onto the bridge, which would corrode it faster. That may be a better solution on that too. But again, once this report comes back, we'll be able to.
And yes, and I think that depending on how the report comes back, if you want to wait until it comes back to decide how to move forward or work on some information gathering ahead of time, one of the things I've learned that process is just as, if not more important than outcome sometimes. So trying to get a handle on this option, how it stacks up against other options, especially if the price comes in high, of what to do next, and to seek out that input is going to be, I think, important before a final decision can be made.
And we'll all remember, and do remember tonight too, the demand for the auto traffic across that bridge. It was 2,000 to 3,000 cars a day, and it is missed, and it is important to who we are. Public comments. Megan, do you want to make any observation comments? You put a lot of work into this. We really appreciate it. It kind of energizes all of us and really it's just wonderful to see Waverly this is what the council wanted, was the input from everyone, because it is an easy decision for us, and you've heard a lot tonight. Do you like any final words here?
Just a few. One, I'd like to thank you guys for putting up with my emails. They'll keep coming, don't you worry. But also, you guys have mentioned, 20 years. Well, 20 years is 20 years. If somebody told me that repairing something could make, me last 20 more years, I would take it, because it's 20 years. I understand that we're not going to get this bridge, 1, 2, 300 more years. I would love to see that happen. However, I know that that's not realistic. I also understand the safety and the financial implications that we're talking about, but I also understand that there's a high demand. You said 2,000 to 3,000 cars a day. That's a lot of people. I myself drive over it maybe 5 times a day. So I just want to emphasize that it is important. And we know you're not sitting on your hands, but we also know that it has been over a month and not a lot has been done. So we would like to express the urgency from all the feedback I've been getting from a lot of people within the community. So once again, I thank you guys, and I hope that we can get answers soon. So thank you.
We're listening to you. Last comments before roll call? Yes.
Hey, Josh Schneiderman. I live on the southeast side, just on the north side of the Green Bridge. Just from discussions around the neighborhood, there's plenty of support too for replacing it, just to present the counterpoint, but I'll argue for that when that discussion's here. But I would like to see, just to express what Councilwoman Waldstein had mentioned, that we'd love to see the numbers without slant and compare what we see for replacement, considering that it is 2-lane versus 1 lane and a longer life versus the 20 years, so that we're getting everything in perspective. Frankly, I would love to see it replaced. I think a 1-lane bridge, we've kind of outgrown that, but that's just my opinion. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Other comments? Mr. Little.
Dwayne Little, Waverly. I'll expand on Dave's query into when we were warned about this bridge. WHKS about 5 years ago specifically said it had about 5 years worth of life left before it would have to have repairs, period. We just ignored it. We look at it as something old, and because it's old, it's decrepit and it's not usable and like that, so we've been pushing towards a replacement bridge. So to take all the emotion out of it and look at it from an analytical view, why was the bridge put there in the first place in that location? Because it's the most ideal spot to get from north to southeast in Waverly. If you go back in history, you look at before that bridge was built, there was actually a small footbridge built, kind of a suspension type footbridge that was built in that location. It's because people were moving in that spot. So when I hear, well, that bridge has got 60 years and it's compared to a set of tires, it wears out and you throw the tires away and you get new tires. Well, that's not really true, because all my life I've worked with steel, metals, and there's nothing special about the steel in that bridge. It's what we commonly call mild steel. It's a very easy weldable, malleable, has a lot of yield in it before it will actually bend. It's a very easy material to work with. Now, the repairs in the past, and I was on the council from 2006 to 2010, the repairs on the bearing plates were talked about because the city had not maintained them. Those bearing plates are where the parallelogram trusses meet each other on top of either the bridge piers underneath, the concrete piers, or on the bridge abutments on each end. The leaves and crap had gotten in there, and that held water, which water held against steel then corrodes it at a faster rate. So a lack of maintenance has been a problem. The 2 side-to-side beams on each bridge abutment was replaced at a similar time as the sidewalks. So we have done some repairs, but mostly we've been just patching it. We welded plates on the outside of the bearing plates on each of the legs of the truss, so we could tie the sides of the truss to each other without going through the bearing plate, because the thickness of the metal the mass of the metal was being ate away with rust. It's nothing but steel. It's channel, it's flat strap metal, it's I-beams. We've looked at replacing it. We've had the conversation, we could get $1 million from the state of Iowa for replacing that bridge in that location. But we would have to put $300,000 to $400,000 with it just to make a new bridge, and the new bridge would have to be 8 feet above the 100-year floodplain. So that, as Pete Lampe talked about, it changes the character of the neighborhood considerably with a new bridge. And it makes it impossible to see from the north side of the bridge to the south side or vice versa on who's coming up the other side of the bridge. And it took out 4 to 6 homes at that time. When you look at the pictures of the motor bridge up in Elkader, or near Elkader, kind of southeast of West Union, I don't know how far that bridge was actually raised. I think it's in the same location, same elevation, because I've been to that spot several times. I kind of enjoy that old building. And I think the key word here is repair. If you repair the bridge, then you can put it in the same elevation above the river as it is now. But if you start replacing it, or you start rehabbing or rejuvenating or that type of language, then you start getting into the problems with having to elevate the bridge above the 100-year floodplain. And then you got the same problem with the old bridge you have with the new bridge. So when you get looking at it, it is very much possible to repair that bridge. I'm thinking if you look at objectively to all the costs and the overall usage, how it would be used, just take all the emotion out of it. It makes good financial sense to repair it and bring it up to the standards. Actually painting it actually increases the rust after a period of time. The greenness is coming from the zinc that's in the paint that was put on there. That's why we'll have to have some precautions made when we sandblast that bridge, because zinc is a hazardous material and has to be collected, can't be dropped into the river. We would probably be better off leaving that bridge in its natural state. We have several sidewalk bridges around town that are in the natural state. And even though they're rust on the surface, they don't create that pitting type rust, because the water washes the rust off all the time as it rains. And it'll do the same thing with salt and stuff, just because of rain. So I think that my personal opinion is you repair the bridge, you don't paint the bridge, but you do remove the paint that's on there. If you look at some of the end of the truss where it comes down towards the street on either side, you can see the rust building up underneath the paint, because the zinc effect on the steel has been long gone. So now the paint film is actually holding moisture to the metal and increasing the rate of rust. These are just observations from...
Well, they're helpful. Are you speaking for this resolution 15-47 or against?
If you try to get an option on whether or not you replace it as a pedestrian bridge, you're still going to have the 85 pounds per square foot problem with the weight. So the cost to repair it for pedestrian is going to be pretty much the same as it is to repair it to a one-lane bridge the way it is now.
But are you speaking in favor of or opposed to?
I hate seeing that much money spent on just an engineer to tell us something that we've been told before in the past what needed to be done. And it's another one of those stalling tactics that end up making this process last longer than it has to. If we directed VJ Engineering to decide how to replace, not section, not patching, but replacing. Just come up with engineering. It's very easy. Any steel fabrication shop can build those gusset plates and those truss. And you'd replace the truss from the top down to the bearing plate, replace the bearing plate, replace the stringers, and replace the I-beams that go across on top of the piers. Now, the piers are scaling, and that seems to be a concern. Quite a few years ago, the flood walls on the dam out beside this building were doing the same thing. And at the time, Butch K. Construction chipped off the old scaling parts of that cement, and I don't know what kind of concrete he used on there, but at the time, I thought it was a waste of money. But if you go out there and you look at those concrete piers along the flood dam on our dam out here, they're all nice and smooth yet. That concrete's still on there. So there's possible to repair the scaling parts of the concrete piers.
Okay. Any other public comments before we vote? City engineer.
I think I can, Mr. Reznacek had a question about why now. And I want to take you to page 3 of VJ's proposal and look at the second paragraph. Second paragraph, first sentence, where it says, I'm not sure if this is based on their observation or if they're paraphrasing what was in WHKS's report, but it talks about how the superstructure has significant level of corrosion and section loss at the connection plates, and the southwest and northwest bearing connections have failed, resulting in settlement of the truss. So they were able to see that there was actually physical settlement of the truss. Now, to me, that's your first indicator that you got to close the bridge. And what I keep thinking, going back to, is, I see that commercial for like Bayer aspirin, where they hand the person the note, your heart attack's going to happen on this day. Well, if we knew exactly when that would occur, it would be a whole lot easier. But the indicators were always there. And for, yes, many, many years, WHKS put in the report, they think there's about, within the next 5 years, we may have to look at closing the bridge. 2 years ago, they said they didn't feel comfortable as a professional engineer saying it was good for another 2 years. They said we need to start doing annual inspections. And so we did that in 13 and then, or in 14, and then this year was the second one, and this is when they noticed the settlement. And I just think, thank goodness we close it now and not after a failure, and be saying, why didn't we do something sooner? We squeezed every bit of life out of this structure. And what allowed us to do that is we had consistency with the bridge inspectors, that we had the same people inspecting it year after year that were familiar with it, photo documenting it, and monitoring the rate of deterioration, and we closed it when it had to be closed.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
I guess I would, and I understand that explanation, but I would argue that if you go back to the 2011 report, they talked about some bending beams and so forth, and the signs that this didn't rust in a year. So I guess that was my concern as I went through the reports one by one, that the damage that we saw this year did not happen this year. Actually, we're using pictures from several years ago, so going forward, I guess we just need to be better stewards of our roadways.
And realize those who went before us were dealing with a lot of complexity, and they're very thorough, and we thank Hank and we thank Pete for their huge reports, and they were proactive, but life is complex, and we avoided, thank you, Mike, for helping us avoid any catastrophes. We are where we are. We're ready to move forward. Roll call vote, please.
Lampe.
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 15-47 is unanimously approved. We're now on the offense. We'll look forward to a report back. Regular business item number 3 is a resolve to approve special provisional use for an indoor recreational fitness club which already exists, and a wrestling camp boarding house which does not yet exist in the R4 zoned old junior high building. The issue here is over parking needs and requirements. It comes to us after approval from planning and zoning. City Administrator, any comments?
I think you've summed it up pretty well.
Formal motion, please.
I will move the Resolution 1548, approval of a special provisional use for an indoor recreational fitness club and wrestling camp boarding house in R4 zoned property located at 350 First Avenue Northwest.
A second, please.
Second.
Council discussion.
Just to help me kind of understand, if this is approved, is there also some review concerning life safety, those type of things, turning a school into an overnight boarding house? How are those things addressed?
Sure. Good evening. Yeah, the special provisional use approach, right, would include the overnight boarding of individuals, and I know the architect is here tonight to put a plug in, but I know that is part of the equation, yes. As part of a permit being issued, we're going to discuss the land use tonight per council direction and look at the dynamics of the property, and then as part of that use, they would also have to apply for their building permit. I would sign off, for example, on the zoning and saying that use has been approved, and then it be kicked over to building inspection. That would be the other necessary, any life safety measures would be evaluated, yes.
So it's not just as simple as putting up bunk
Correct.
beds and...
Correct. I don't want to encourage anybody just doing this. You need to have a building permit, have it inspected, and then it's opened up.
This is a temporary special provisional use? Is that how I read that?
Well, how this came out of planning and zoning discussion, the use of a wrestling camp boarding house it's a unique use. There's not a lot of uses like that I'm aware of kind of on a private scale. So the thought was through P&Z discussion to say they really want to see how it functions and then bring it back. And I know that Bill is, you know, he was kind of looking at this too from the angle of how do we, what are the mechanics of doing this through a council resolution to fulfill the Planning and Zoning Commission's wish. The thought here is it will sunset. So essentially it will go away and then it be brought back again by the applicant for further discussion and review at the P&Z Commission. By that time in October, we will then, in theory, have had the opportunity to see the Gym 24 use and potentially the wrestling camp boarding house use through the summer months, bring it back for discussion, and revive it essentially. To say, do we want to continue this or do we not want to continue this, based on what has happened, based on the parking conditions and the dynamics around the property.
I think that's a good idea. Parking, I know parking is probably one of the things. It talked in there about diagonal parking. Is that First Avenue? Is that new, that has been added, or there hasn't been diagonal parking there?
Well, it was relatively new. It was restriped, I understand.
Okay.
It used to be kind of like I think a parallel for the buses to pull in, I understand. And you're right, it was restriped.
Okay.
So there's 20 diagonal spaces now between the junior high and the Walgreens there on First Ave.
And is that still a two-way street?
Yes.
That, you know, I think we've talked about this before. If you did diagonal parking on both sides, made that is that street wide enough for a one-way street with diagonal on both sides? No, I mean, this doesn't impact my vote today, but I'm just saying that's something maybe to look at, you know, if parking does, because I see parking as probably the biggest issue. But I know we've talked about that before, something to think about.
I think generally it's a little narrow for that.
Okay, probably, okay.
And the Commission Planning and Zoning talked about parking a lot too.
Okay.
When they were reviewing this. Yeah.
I just add that Mr. Denai is going to move the entrance to the south, which should require which shall result in the people that are going to the gym going from the south entrance and probably parking in the diagonal parking places instead of on 4th Street, where he has it now, and that'll just be an emergency exit. And I believe that one of the things that they're requiring for his gym, or his wrestling camp, is that he has to sprinkle the rooms where people will be staying. And so I think that's a pretty significant requirement for the life and health and safety.
I was assuming that would probably have to happen if he was going through the permitting process.
Right.
And I know like rezoning, but does this go out to neighbors for their input at all?
Yes.
Was there any feedback at the
Not that I recall.
Not necessarily received. I know at the last meeting, I know a couple of the commissioners did say that they received some phone calls, and just the concern again was parking around the structure.
But yeah, I think if they're moving the entrance to the south side, I think it's gonna definitely encourage people to park on First Avenue there, so, and we'll know in October.
For the public, it's Ben Cohout. He's our city staff zoning expert, so that's why he's answering so expertly.
I'd like
How
to-
many spots are being asked for in this effort versus how many parking places were a part of the school at its peak?
Well, I can address the school. I talked to the business manager at Waverly Shell Rock School District office, and I believe there was 43 staff members at any one time that would park, or at least report to the school. I'm not sure exactly where they would park. There is no off-street parking for the school in this area, so I assume they would all park on the street. So again, about 43.
Okay. And they're requesting maximum?
Well, for the requested uses, I know it was 23, I think, for the actual uses is what we require for off-street.
Hello, my name is Andrew Bell. I'm with AHTS Architects. I'm not the architect. I am working for the firm, but I just came in to speak for Mr. Denai and try to discuss some of the issues that we have discussed at the council, the commission with Ben and the rest of the Planning and Zoning Commission. With this project, we have identified the life safety and wellness portions of the work definitely include the adding of sprinkler systems throughout the whole, every space within the facility, whether it be used for boarding house purposes or not. And that will definitely bring life safety and wellness of that structure up for any type of development in the future. It'll be allow that to occur without further incident. I also wanted to speak to the parking. We have identified that there are 58 spaces if you include the diagonal parking to the south as well as parallel parking just on the side that abuts the junior high itself. So we wouldn't necessarily be claiming what's across the street. Obviously there's neighborhoods and residential all along all sides of, 3 sides of the building. But what we're asking for here is to, with this special provisional use and then the use of sunsetting, if that would be your way of approving it, if we identify these parking stalls that are on street as sufficient for the use that we are going to observe for a year, because there are 58 spots. It functioned as a school using upwards of mid-40s, and the use of the wrestling camp itself is about 50 camp goers for 2-week stints, but they are 8 to 18 with a heavy emphasis on late junior high, early high school users, primarily drop-offs, and there's no discussion of overnight parking stays. So we are looking into a potential sunsetting as a way of you guys examining and feeling comfortable that you don't just get carte blanche to a property that has a very unique use. But
Well, thank you. That's
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah, Mr. Bell. Let's do a motion that we can further discuss, and we can maybe have our liaisons to planning and zoning weigh in here, too. Motion, please.
I'll move Resolution 1548 approving special provisional use for an outdoor recreational fitness club and wrestling camp boarding house in an R4 zoned property located at 350 First Avenue Northwest.
Second, please.
Could you add the sunset date if you're going to do
Oh,
that?
yeah, let me open that up. Where is it at? What is it? The sunset date of October 19th, 2015.
And the city clerk has that clear. Second, please.
Second?
Motion and seconded. Council discussion. And planning and zoning, if there are any helpful inputs here, because I know you guys waited long.
Yeah.
We really rely on you guys.
Well, and Hank's here, I guess, just as a liaison. The meetings that I was able to attend where this was discussed, as usual, it was a very thorough discussion, looking at all of the issues that have already been raised, safety, parking, et cetera. And, and they are recommending it, and they did good work.
The two dissenters, was that around parking, or?
What?
The two dissenters, was that around parking?
Oh, Hank, do you remember?
I can speak to one of them.
Okay.
Richard Dane was discussing two issues, one being parking and one being the provisional use of a boarding house facility, which in its definition discusses meals. And there was a little bit of confusion about whether or not meals were going to be provided. And I commented that I had not personally been asked to design kitchen facilities, but since that last meeting I had discussed with the owner and that there are kitchen facilities being planned for. So meals would be provided in some form or another, which then would be in compliance with one of the terms that Richard was curious about.
Mr. Bagelman?
Just wanted to clarify the telephone calls we got. There were two telephone calls, one to me and one to Rich Dane by the same person. And the issue wasn't so much the crowding of parking, but the fact that there were some people that were parking their cars in the alley, which was creating some blockage for them, and that they would hope that people would take a look at that. But it wasn't in question as to whether there was adequate parking or not.
Hank, do you remember, though, who the other, it doesn't matter who it was, but what the opinions were of the other dissenting vote? What were the issues? I don't recall myself.
I don't.
On the parking.
On the parking, yeah.
And again, yeah, with the parking issue, the building did function as it did for many years with parking around it, and the residents of Waverly got used to driving there, and we're not talking about that same level of occupancy at this point. So I think the sun set so that we kind of look at it and take a look at how it does fit, and does the moving of the entrance to the south side change how many people, particularly on 4th Street. That would be the biggest key as far as parking and clogging and congestion.
I think you should also know this request came up 3 times. And 3 times the neighbors were notified. We did not have a single person from the neighborhood show up at all.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Other public input influence the vote before we do roll call vote. Roll call vote, please.
Lampy, excuse me, Lampy.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Nyandorf.
Yes.
Resnichek.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 15-48 unanimously approved. Regular business item number 4 is a resolve to amend Resolution 13-80 and approve our 2015 subdivision sidewalk infill program. This is an item of extended council review for the public, and it's intended to bring sidewalk connectivity to our subdivisions. City Administrator, any further comments on that?
This is the formal action we've reviewed at the last 2 meetings, just to put into act the decision to have those with adjoining ownership on their lots infill with the missing link sidewalks, and also others that have sidewalk or adjoining curb where there should be sidewalk where it currently is not yet in place.
For the public, they had study session extensively with maps, and so I think we're pretty well, as a community, up to date as well. Formal motion, please.
I'll move Resolution 1542, approving the amending of the Resolution 1380 for the biannual subdivision sidewalk infill program.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion. Public input.
My question, I guess, on this would be, on the resolution itself, should we have the addresses listed within there? I mean, we've got,
I think the intent is that we would not be looking at amending the resolution, every other year, that this would be the criteria used going forward unless decided otherwise by the council.
I think that was our approach anyways, that we're setting criteria rather than picking individual homes each biennial review. It can go either way, but.
I mean, my concern would be that other homes get pulled in this year that haven't been discussed with council, and they might be, notified that they have to put a sidewalk in. And
Well, as long as they fit the criteria, yes.
And I guess Tim, are you saying you would like to review each and every property?
I'd like to kind of take a look at it each year right now. I mean, yes, we've talked about the criteria, but then again, we've dealt with, in particular, the one that just keeps coming up to me is the Eliason addition, where we're building sidewalks to nowhere, that
It's a continual waiver.
that the wording says one thing, but I don't, it doesn't logically make sense to force that to be build a sidewalk to walk into nothing right now, or to connect to nothing.
I mean, how often will this happen? Will there be like a year from now, you'll look at some properties that might need it, or on
Biennial, every 2 years.
2 years? So I mean, so the ones in here are the ones that we're talking about right now. Nothing's going to be added for 2 years, or
Right, this would be it. And if there were new situations, like, let's say there's still vacant lots out there owned by a developer, and within, we don't monitor it daily or monthly. We do every 2 years, we canvass the community looking for this stuff, and then we share that with the council, showing subdivision by subdivision where those gaps in the sidewalk system are. And then we can look at the conditions and how our current resolution relates to those conditions, and whether council directs us to have those infilled.
and these folks are still going to have the chance to come before us.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pro Temp, I think, are you satisfied that we'll be dealing only then with these 7 or whatever, and 2 years from now, we'll look at other?
I guess just to confirm, these are empty lots that a home does not yet exist, and we're asking someone to build a sidewalk.
So some of these are, the person owns the lot. It's my house, and I bought the lot next to me. I've never put a sidewalk there, so there's a gap.
All of these fit that criteria.
That's what we're talking about.
It's not like you bought a lot, Dave, you're looking to build on in 2 years, and we're forcing, because
Yep.
I've been not really in favor of that, but
Well, we reviewed all of those. I forget if that was a meeting or a study session. I mean,
That
we
was a
went
study
over
session.
went over those in detail.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
So,
And it does say, I mean, the first whereas, if the property owner or staff disagree on a deferment, it will come before city council.
thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, and I guess my other point was I want the bigger program of other connectivity within where we need to put sidewalks where there hasn't been in the community, and go back through there, because there's a number of connectivity issues there still. These are in the new subdivisions.
yeah, I mean, we got parts of town that, for whatever reason, the house should have a sidewalk, because there's one to the left, one to the right, and it never has, and that almost bugs me a little more than new subdivisions.
Any public input before we vote? Council, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Niendorf,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Resnichek,
Yes?
Kangas,
Yes.
Lampy, McKenzie.
Yes.
Resolution 15-42 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 5 is a resolve to approve our returned contract bonds and certificate of insurance for our 2015 ped ramp construction. This is directed to our 5th district. A motion, please.
Move. Resolution 1549, approving contract bonds and certificate of insurance for Boulder Contracting for the citywide ped ramp construction 2015, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion? Public input? Roll call vote?
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnick.
Yes?
Lampy.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 15-49 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 6 is resolved to approve the return contract, bonds, and certificate of insurance for our extensively processed Second Avenue Southwest reconstruction and our Babcock Woods Trail extension. Formal motion.
I'd move Resolution 1550 approving contract bond and certificate of insurance for Heartland Asphalt for the Second Avenue Southwest reconstruction and Babcock Wood Trail Extension 2015, and authorize the mayor to sign contract.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion second and council discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Resnick.
Yes?
McKenzie.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 15-50 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 7 is resolved to approve the return contract bonds and certificate of assurance for the sewer and street work surrounding St. Paul's Church. Motion, please.
Move Resolution 1551, approving the contract bonds and certificate of insurance from Denver Underground and Grading for the 2nd Street Northwest Area Storm Sewer and Street Improvements, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Resnick.
Yes?
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
Resolution 15-51 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 8 is a resolve to approve the return contract bonds, certificate of assurance for the sidewalk extension work on West Bremer Avenue. This is near Bremwood Children's Home. Formal motion.
Move approval of Resolution 15-52 of approving contract bonds and certificate of insurance for Boulder Contracting, from Boulder Contracting for the West Bremer Avenue sidewalk extension, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Council discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Lampy.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnick.
Yes?
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 15-52 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 9 is a resolve to award contract for the AMVETS area Riverbank reconstruction. That's in southeast Waverly. Formal motion, please.
I move Resolution 15-53 awarding contract for AMVETS Riverbank Restoration 2015 to Skyline Construction of Decorah, Iowa for the bid of $61,963.53.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Council discussion.
Just a quick question, with the city now becoming owners of that whole area, have we communicated with the Ball Diamond groups as far as what we're doing for lawn mowing, any changes to their usage pattern, any of that type of thing?
We have. They know that they are still going to be maintained for their programs. We'll be mowing the outsides. They'll be mowing the insides of the fence. I'll be in contact with them again before the mowing season starts just to confirm that, but we've had some discussions.
We will do inside and outside the fence,
We're going to be doing outside the fence.
so they'll have to, okay.
Thank you. More discussion? Public input before we vote. Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resnick.
Yes?
Lampy. McKenzie.
Yes.
Nyendorf.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 15-53 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 10 is a resolve to award contract for this year's bituminous seal coat program, which is our street repair effort for that this year covers 60 city blocks. A formal motion.
I move Resolution 15-54, awarding contract for the 2015 bituminous seal coat program to Blacktop Services of Humboldt, Iowa, for the bid amount of $83,430.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote.
Kangas,
Yes.
Neuendorf,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Lampe,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Resolution 15-54 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 11 is a resolve to award contract for our city dog park parking lot and our citywide asphalt patching requirements. City Administrator, any comments?
These are two projects packaged together for the intention to get better bids as a larger quantity, and I think that worked for us again this year.
Bulk of this would be the parking lot, I believe, and a little bit on the asphalt.
Yep.
And,
Correct.
yes. Formal motion, please.
I'll move Resolution 1556, approving,
55?
55. I'll approve, should've stopped talking a long time ago. I'll move Resolution 1555, awarding contract for the Waverly Dog Park parking lot project and citywide asphalt patching spring 2015 to for Blacktop Services Company of Humboldt, Iowa, for the bid amount of $39,014.30.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are we happy with this bid? Okay. Council discussion.
I mean, we've seen budgets or projected expenditures for this before, right? Is that about where we are?
I think this is fencing.
This is higher, this is about,
This is a little
parking lot's
more
about
than our
8,000
estimate.
higher than budgeted.
Okay.
Budgeted was 24,000, I believe.
But between this and the low bid on the fencing,
Fencing.
we're still
Okay.
have a bigger gap than we anticipated,
The
availability.
Yeah, as
What's the
far as
split between-
budget, I mean, we had a plug number.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
that was an estimate, yeah, it's not
Without
like it's
even having
over.
gone through a design
Right,
process,
absolutely,
yeah.
yep.
Okay.
What's the split as far as what goes to dog park and what's for the
The patching.
patching?
The patching is pretty small. It's only, let's see, 5 areas based on it's like water break patching or that.
Yep,
Uh,
Of the $39,000 bid, $36,210 is the parking lot, so.
And that amount is being funded by the money that we received from.
For the grant.
For the
yeah.
grant.
And so the other 2,800 goes towards the patching on the streets.
Or 4,200, yeah. More discussion? Public input? This is a fun one to pass. Roll call vote.
Kangas,
Yes.
Neuendorf,
Yes.
Reznacek,
Yes.
Lampe,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 15-55 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 12 is to approve the return contract bond certificate of insurance for the dog park fence project. Formal motion.
I move Resolution 1556 approving contract bonds and certificate of insurance from D&N Fence Company for the Waverly Dog Park fencing project and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion. The amount here is $33,358, correct?
And again, this is all funded from the grant.
Question? Safe money. More council discussion, public input? Pro Temp, you want to weigh in? Okay. Roll call vote?
McKenzie,
Yes.
Neuendorf,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampe,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Resolution 15-56 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 13 is resolved to release the maintenance guarantee for the water, storm sewers, and sidewalk improvements at Fairway Foods. We've had briefings on this, of course, and, but maybe some more background, or that same background information, City Administrator, would be helpful before we vote.
Yep, so back in 2009, this project started, and we're now at the end of the maintenance guarantee that the Fairway Storage Company gave to the city as far as holding it in case there was any maintenance needs on any of this infrastructure. We inspected and returned back a portion to them earlier, I believe in 2012. This guarantee is set to expire in April 1 of 2015, and staff, upon inspection, finds their infrastructure to be in good condition with only normal wear. So we believe it's appropriate to now turn this back to the company.
So we're going to turn back 12,000 some.
500, 12,500.
Formal motion, please.
Move resolution 1557, releasing the maintenance guarantee for public improvements for the Fairway Store Incorporated.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion seconded, council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote.
Kangas.
Yes.
Neuendorf.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Lampe.
Yes.
Bezincheck.
Yes.
Resolution 15-57 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 14 is a resolve to accept the low bid for our new carpet at the library. Ms. Sarah.
Good evening. This comes to you as a recommendation from the library board. Their last meeting was March 10th, and the bids were presented to the library board, and so Kirk Gross from Waterloo ended up being a low bidder. And we'd like to do, as we're doing this carpet project, it's going to be necessary to move everything around, and the way we bid the project was to include all of the labor related to the moving on a separate, for a separate company, Jones Library Sales, which is really a specialty library company out of Carlisle, Iowa. And they would actually be doing they come with trailers and carts and all the shelf moving equipment that would actually take the items from the shelf. That's their specialty, is the sequencing part of that. Removing items from the shelf, dismantling the shelving, reinstalling it, and putting things back on in the order that it's supposed to be, which will be invaluable to us.
Have you ever thought about leaving the carpet?
What's that?
No.
So we would recommend that we would go with that setup with those two companies, and then we will still come in $5,000 or $6,000 under budget, under a $120,000 budget. The reason we're coming to you tonight is that because this is paid for out of the capital improvement fund for the city and not the library's general operating budget, it just seemed like the right thing to do since this was a big expenditure for us. The carpet is going to be 17 years old this coming August, so I think we've done well just with our annual cleanings to keep it, in good shape. The new carpet is going to be a double density. There's new products out now, and we'll also have a track-off carpeting in the front lobby. But we're really doing it for the most flexibility as far as the floor plan, and that was the one thing I was asked to just give a very brief explanation of what we're doing as far as the floor plan. There have been a number of questions about it. First off, I will say that we're keeping all of the furniture. There's one computer desk. Oh, no one could see what I was looking at.
Are you lit? Oh, it's coming.
Now we can.
We're good. There's one computer desk set that is set for old-style monitors that will go, but other than that, we'll just be reusing all the furniture that we currently have. We don't have any budget for new furniture at this point. That might be something we'll, go to our library foundation with a request at some point. But one of our goals in working with, we worked with a library consultant who we talked to about how can we, using the current space that we have, thank you, how can we open up some space for some gathering areas that we know we need? And one of those was for teen space. the map you're looking at now is actually the new plan where things will be moved to, and it's not drastic. Many of the locations where shelving is now, it will be. There are some changes. But in one of the big things we're accomplishing is back in the southwest corner area, we have freed up some space for a teen area. And everything that you read about teen space in libraries, which is a very prominent thing when building new libraries now, is that you don't want it too close to your children's area. And so we have moved it further from that area, but still within a couple of service desks that can provide some supervision where needed. That was a big thing we talked about. We got the staff together for a number of meetings where we just talked about the things we were hoping could be possible and then tried to find out how many of those things we could make happen. So very briefly, at the main entrance, we have taken out some shelving units here and put them in different spots and just made the entrance area more open. This will give you a better line of sight to our youth desk. It will also give you a better line of sight to our information desk, which people have a hard time finding. And so I think there was even one extra shelving unit here that was taken out and again moved to another spot. The computers will all be centralized in, all except for a few in the youth area that have certain games loaded on them that we want to stay where they are. But otherwise, all the computers are now coming here. One of the main reasons being that the information desk is a place where we always have a librarian, and there would be more time for that person to devote to a person who needed some help on the computers. And I think they'll be easier to supervise altogether as well. The collaboratory over here, some of you may remember that there are 3 computers in that room right now. We're going to take all but one and put it in the center and leave that one for proctoring exams, which we do quite a lot for various colleges and universities all over the United States. And that then will free up that room also for some additional meeting space, because we have a lot of folks that use our conference room and our other meeting rooms. So that will just be one more space that will open up. The local and family history area will move closer to the information desk. This shelving in this area will be turned to run the same way that all the rest of the shelving runs for a better line of sight back to that northwest corner, which will be good. In the youth area, there's also, we've switched these things where the preschool area with the picture books and the early literacy interactive toys that we have there will be moved closer to the storytime room, also closer to the family restrooms, and the tables that are used for school class visits and kind of more the middle school chapter book area will be in that corner. So just some flip-flopping of things that may solve a few, may make things better for the people using the library, which is what we want to do. I'm trying to think if I left anything out.
Sarah, might it be helpful just to mention that you had the benefit of your staff working with a usage study, someone who did a usage study? And then
this map comes out of a space utilization study that was done by George Lawson, who was the former director of the Ames Public Library and now does library consulting all over the United States. And he worked with us to figure out what kinds of things we wanted addressed. We had the board look at this plan as well and give their input. It was very helpful because he was able to tell us where we could combine collections, still keep collections together. But again, we want to leave this as flexible as possible in the end, because I would say in the next 15 years, we're definitely going to move things around again. And probably, reduce the number of shelving units a few more times, gradually, slowly but gradually.
Sarah, you want to mention the ICN?
What
the ICN room?
Oh, it just so happens that the timing worked out perfectly, that our ICN room, which had been built when the building was new, that technology has become obsolete. In fact, I think every ICN room in the state is going to be out of use by the end of 2016 was what I understood from the representative of the ICN that I spoke to. And so we are dismantling that room currently. We were down to maybe 10 or 12 meetings per year. The new technology that could be used in that room for interactive meetings is a telecom system, but we would have to pay for it per month charge for that kind of thing. And we just don't think at this point, we're not planning to do that right now, since there are other ways now that people can have telecommunications meetings. But that makes it much easier for us to recarpet that room and repurpose that room so that the tables can be rearranged at will. It'll just be a much more flexible space. So.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Long awaited, a formal motion. You can stay there because we got the next motion coming up.
Oh, yes.
as well.
I'll move Resolution 1558, approving the low bid of $94,627.56 received from Kurt Gross of Waterloo, Iowa, for the new carpet for the library carpet project.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion and second, council discussion. Public input before we vote. Roll call vote.
Resnick.
Yes.
Lampe.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Niendorf.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 15-58 is hereby approved. Would someone like to motion 1559?
I move Resolution 1559, approving the bid of $19,125 from Jones Library Sales for the moving of library shelving for the library carpet project.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion.
I guess my one question, going with two companies, are you worried about timing or second? So I mean, so like the carpet project, the library be closed for a while, or?
Yeah, in fact, I just received some more information on that today. From all of the other libraries that have gone through projects like this that I've talked to, it sounds like the standard is kind of 2 weeks.
How much?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
And I had been hoping, without having any real solid information, that we'd be more at the 1 week level, but I think we really are going to need to plan for 2 weeks. And that's what the mover has indicated as well. I don't anticipate any problems coordinating between the movers and the carpet layers. These movers have worked with carpet folks a lot, and they have kind of tentatively blocked off that time for us. We're thinking that will probably take place the first 2 weeks in May. I don't think our carpet, when we're given the go-ahead to let the vendor order it, I don't think it will arrive until the end of April, because it's a lot of carpet. And so, yeah, I'm kind of counting on those first 2 weeks of May, and I think our vendors will both be able to work with us on that.
You anticipating a quiet reopening, or are you going to have a little more splash?
It'll only be quiet for a few days, because one of our goals is to have this done by the 20th, or before the 20th of May, because shortly after that, we start sign up for summer reading program, and then things get crazy from there for the next couple of months. So
Official grand reopening, right?
I don't think so. Not at this point, anyway.
More council discussion? Public input before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Niendorf.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Lampe.
Yes.
Resnick.
Resolution 15-59 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 16 is a resolve to adopt a 34.5-cent mileage reimbursement policy for the city of Waverly. City administrator, it's pretty routine, I believe.
Yep, actually, what this does is it repeals the 34.5 cent and adopts the current, whatever the current IRS mileage rate is.
Okay.
You notice in the past, at different times, resolutions were brought forth to council just adopting the current mileage rate. So what this would do is it would just enact whatever the calendar year or the fiscal year IRS rate is.
Okay. Okay. A motion, please.
Move Resolution 1560, adopting policy for mileage reimbursement.
A second, please.
Second.
Council discussion.
guess my only question is there any kind of a stipulation on when you use a personal vehicle as opposed to using a
Yep.
car?
I know for, we try to have people use pool cars whenever they're available. If they're not available, then they can use their car. I believe in the personnel rules it says if a pool car is available, but you still use your own car, then you get a reduced reimbursement rate. A half reimbursement rate. So, always cheaper to use a pool car.
Is there any limit on how many miles to travel? I mean, if you go to Des Moines and back, it's quite a check as opposed to renting a car. So, I mean, after a while, there'd probably be a difference.
Right, we don't have a lot of travel, a lot of mileage reimbursements. It's fairly rare to have those, I would say. And most of the time when we do have travel, it's carpooling in the van.
Spring is going to be your heaviest time because everybody's doing their training. And that's when we really become into schedule conflicts with the fleet.
Yep.
Okay, so if there's a conflict with the fleet and it's taken and somebody has to go, then we reimburse for their personal.
That's our goal, but like Phil mentioned, if it doesn't happen that way and there's a fleet available, but somebody chooses to drive their personal vehicle, then we reimburse only at half the mileage rate.
In a year's span, approximately how many times would we be involved with reimbursements?
I wouldn't even hazard a guess.
More council discussion? Public input before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnichek.
Yes.
Nyandorf.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 15-60 is unanimously approved. We move to reports of boards and commissions. We received the Law Enforcement Board, Bremer Waverly Law Enforcement Board minutes from February 9th. Any comments on these minutes? Not officially received. Airport Commission minutes from February 12th. Any comments?
Mike, I got these late Thursday when I just got that mailing from you on Thursday prior to the meeting, and I just happened to notice in the minutes that they had Dave as absent on that when he shouldn't even have been counted. So when we go back next month, can we revisit these minutes? Correct that.
Called work.
That February minutes?
Yeah, the February minutes.
For the record, Resnichek has been called worse.
There was they've got a new board member was doing the minutes, and he was just kind of copying from the previous minutes and kind of trying to match up, and he just copied that over.
I called you mean a little bit ago, so, you know, that's probably...
There you go.
Pretty bad.
Okay, Airport Commission minutes are officially received. Historic Preservation Commission minutes from January 22nd. Any comments? Officially received. We received the Waverly Senior Citizens Group minutes from February 19th. We thank all these people for their thorough reporting and reporting back to us. Comments? Officially received. Staff comments.
Brian and Tab have a few first.
We're pleased to announce the golf course is going to open at noon on Wednesday for the season. And we're...
Wow.
Right. After St. Patrick's Day. And then we're sorry to report that Greg Mason has decided to end his contract and move on to a better opportunity for him and his family, being head pro at Sleepy Hollow Resort in Burlington, Iowa. And Jordan David, his assistant, for the past couple of years, will be pro shop manager this summer.
This summer, okay.
Just to let you know, the official opening date for the Yardway site is March 30th, Monday. But due to the nice weather, we're going to add 4 days for it to be open prior to that. It'll be a Saturday and Sunday, 2 Saturdays and 2 2 Fridays and 2 Saturdays, excuse me. March 20th and 21st, and 26th, or 27th and 28th. There'll be the regular hours. Friday will be 7 to 5:30, and Saturday 8 to 4 for the early spring cleaners.
Expect this to be the headlines of the paper, please.
Probably just Christmas, we're going to get a snowstorm now, so.
Well, hopefully not. Another item, I just want to let people know that please have your garbage out by 7 o'clock in the morning. Do not go by the schedule of when the garbage guys get there. We have 5 different drivers, so it may not be the same time every day. And so don't go by when the guy goes by, and just get it out the night before or by 7 o'clock in the morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have a work study session next week? Do we have anything to do?
We do. We have, right now, we have one agenda item, and that's an action item for a memorandum of agreement between the city and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Rock Island District. And this is with regards to a Section 160 permit, which is a historic property review permit, which leads into a Section 404 permit, which is a stream bed channel permit from the Corps. To the discussion earlier, at the time we're under the understanding that we had or were shortly within acquiring all the permits needed, and so about 2 weeks ago it came to our attention that this was a different permit and that the MOA used for FEMA is not accepted by the Army Corps of Engineers, another federal bureaucracy, but not the right bureaucracy. So Bill has been working up to his earlobes in this for the last week and can give us a better update.
There's about 4 moving parts right now, and I'm hoping they're all going the same direction for us. I'm going to drop off some additional documentation, photographic documentation that I did Friday at the former Bast House, and that will satisfy the State Historical Preservation Office, and they will sign off on the memorandum of understanding based on their understanding of the fact that we've documented it. The Corps of Engineers has notified the Administrative Council, the National Council, Historic Council, and they usually have a 30-day period in which to act. They've agreed to expedite their review, and he expects them to review it by next week. Our local office, Historic Preservation Commission, will be meeting on Thursday in a special meeting so that they can review the documentation that we've done already and review the memorandum of understanding or of agreement so that we can get their approval, and if they have some changes to make or some suggestions, then we'll incorporate those. And by Monday, we should have the final draft of the memorandum of agreement for the council to review and to approve. It then goes back to the Corps to chase down the colonel that has to sign the document. So hopefully that won't be our big problem, because that's something that I didn't think would be a problem, but apparently those people move around a lot, and that you have to find your person and get them to sign the permit. So next week I may be driving around. I've already done it once to Des Moines, so looking for the colonel. But I think it looks, I'm cautiously optimistic that it'll be done by the end of next week.
What this all really means is that the Bast House, which is a 2-story home, which is an example of post-World War II stick frame architecture with no real significant history attached to it, is still significant enough that they want us to document it with photos, document it with a floor plan, and basically do that as mitigation to tearing it down. The other homes along the corridor have not been found to be contributing, I don't believe. So a lot of this legwork was already done following the 2008 FEMA reconnaissance surveys. It just needed to be updated and in a different format. What it also means is that we can't do any dirt work until this thing is signed, because that impacts the channel one way or the other. So we're working with PC on a timeline to make sure they can do other things that'll keep them busy and make sure they can regain this potentially lost week or so, as they were slated to start, I believe, on the 30th. Is that correct, Mike?
So one agenda item.
So far.
It may grow, huh? Could be a short meeting. City council comments, I think we had communication from Wartburg.
That was just a recognition thank you note for the city contribution for the revenue guarantee.
And then Dave?
Or no, I'm sorry, the
20.
120,000 for the programming.
And I guess what concerns me is in the letter itself, it says, Wartburg College has provided no goods or services in exchange for your gift, but that's not really a gift, it was a payment for...
I think this is their standard
I realize it looks
tax
like a
receipt.
standard letter, but
Right.
it's just concerning that I don't want that to get jumbled up in misunderstandings with what it was and what it's supposed to be for.
I think depending on who reads this will depend on how it's used. But I think we all know that this is the annual recreation payment.
Should we get it corrected?
We sure
I think it
can,
should.
yeah. Because what it is it's basically a...
We're reading it, so.
Yeah, no, I know. We can get a new letter for you
Oh.
from Scott.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, all right, so we didn't receive anything.
Yeah.
So it's correct then. Why aren't you sitting up here where I can see you? Why did you continue to sit back there? She left 2 hours ago. Jeez.
Dan McKinney.
Just a couple of real quick things to take Jack off the hot seat here. I think probably the council received the packet of information concerning the dry run that I'm assuming went out to residents that are going to be impacted, or was that, okay, so it has gone out to residents, and it was great information, and I'm just wondering if we can maybe get that under the project tab on the new website so that we can direct folks to it if they have questions, that type of thing. And then the second thing, I'm not sure who to give credit to, so I'll give it to the mayor and to Bill. But the last 2 weeks, I've gotten quite a few phone calls at home concerning residents either hearing about or seeing surveyors out or catching wind of development that's maybe happening in Waverly. And that's been, in the 3.5 years I've been in the council, the first time I've gotten those type of calls. So I'm not sure if it's the mayor out selling Waverly as the place to come to and build, or if it's Bill and the community development office just out promoting Waverly as a good place to be. But it's residential, it's commercial, it's multifamily, it's all over the board. So we seem to have a little bit of interest building in Waverly. So if you want to take credit for it, please do.
Dan Lampe?
I don't think I have anything.
To my left. Go Tim.
I had a couple things, had some people in my neighborhood asking me about, in the area between Cedar River and 9th Street Northwest, there's a series of basically one block roads there. 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 11th Jewel. And a lot of those number of trees have gotten larger and stuff, and so there are no streetlights on those blocks. There's streetlights on the corners on 9th Street and on Cedar River, but there's nothing in the middle of the block, and so the middle of the blocks get pretty dark. So wondering if that's something to possibly be able to be looked at as far as lights go. And then my other comment was I happened to be down in St. Louis last weekend for a basketball tournament, and one of the things that struck me there crossing the roads is their countdown lights for the turn signals are in sync with the yellow, and so when it's going 5, 4, the light is yellow, and so when it hits 0, the light turns red, versus ours, which it counts down, and then when it hits 0, the light turns yellow. And it seems, my observation in town is it seems to be that those countdown lights on our stoplights seem to be more of an indication for people to speed up, to beat the light changing, as opposed to a warning that the light is going to turn on them. And so I was wondering if there's something that can be done sequencing those to be a little more effective and actually getting people to, stop when the light turns yellow and red, and as opposed to going, oh gee, it's going to turn yellow in 10 seconds, and I've got 3 blocks to get there. I can gun it and make the turn, and
But for people crossing, walkers, when they see that, you hit 0 and all of a sudden the light turns red and the screen, you know what I mean? I see what you mean.
But the walkers aren't looking at the lights turning.
We hold our pedestrians to a higher
Yeah, when
standard.
I'm a walker, I'm looking at that countdown. And I know I got that plus 4 seconds or 3 seconds.
Let's see.
Waverly's high IQ,
know.
they'll anticipate
You're gonna
it.
confuse people, man.
5-1, out we go.
Let's just put roundabouts everywhere, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Downtown
That's my
pedestrian, please
proposal,
don't
but
take
you
away.
stole
that.
my thunder.
Yeah.
Well, no, I like the countdown lights. I just think for
I just don't want it turning green when I'm in the middle of the crosswalk trying to beat the countdown.
If you get one ticket going through a stoplight, you'll never get another one. They're pricey.
Are you?
That's my
Okay,
comment on that.
Yes.
I just, I've been kind of paying attention to the Iowa Senate and the House, and just, for our knowledge, the House just passed Resolution 161, and that's their rental reform, which which does not allow cities to base their occupancy based on family, which we took out of ours initially. So I just kind of, we were kind of forward thinking on that, because we knew that came up about a year ago and it got shot down, and it's back again. I think we did a good job of taking that out right away. Like Cedar Falls, for example, just passed theirs
passed it in, yeah.
with that still in there, so they're likely might have to revisit, and it took a long time to pass that. So, just shout out to P&Z, did a good job on that, and we were kind of forward thinking on that, taking that out right away. I think also there's a sledding bill going through right now that would exempt cities from accidents to do with sledding. Based on the Dubuque thing, it could affect us someday too, but.
Councilman Wallstein.
I don't have anything, except if you do decide to put up more lights in Tim and my neighborhood, Tim's in my neighborhood, you could take the one in front of my house and move it somewhere else.
Some of those LEDs are pretty bright.
All similar thinking people, call Carla Geyer during the week, please. 2 things. Reminder that, no, I want to ask Amanda, I'm sorry. I want
do have a
Amanda to
comment.
weigh in before I finish.
I would like to say congratulations to Iowa in March Madness.
Yes.
We have 3 of 4 teams that could possibly be in for the entire state in the March Madness brackets.
Yeah.
And that is amazing.
That is amazing. Thank you, and we will all feel good.
Go Panthers.
2 thoughts on the way out. Reminder that pedestrians have the right-of-way in the downtown area by law. I've seen, since I walk enough, some people really respecting that lately, and I appreciate that. And let's keep that spreading, because we have certain officials who are at this table who almost got eliminated. I have close relatives almost eliminated. It is very serious. We need to respect pedestrians, and increasingly we're going to have more people downtown as our downtown continues to develop. So let's all favor pedestrians, and say this for the entire public. Also, 4-H held its omelet breakfast yesterday, and what a turnout. I know they had a record turnout, a couple thousand people a year ago, but this one looked all of that and more, and it was just a tremendous event. So it's a great organization, and it's another example of us all pulling together. In the words of our planning team, one town, and you could feel one town. All of us together, celebrating and enjoying a meal on the Sabbath day. So those are my 2 comments. Motion to adjourn.
We adjourn?
Second.
All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.